Now, people love to wave time-lapse star trails centered on Polaris for proof that the Earth is rotating. And when you see these time-lapse star trails, they're beautiful circular star trails. And it would be easy for the uninformed to believe that's proof the Earth is rotating. So I'm going to use this lamp to represent the northern hemisphere of their globe. This is the equator. This finial is Polaris, and the rest of it's the northern hemisphere of the Earth. America here, Alaska, blah, blah, blah. Now, they'll set up cameras centered on Polaris and take pictures of it every so often over, let's say, a 6-hour period. So the Earth is allegedly moving 1,038 miles an hour, rotating. Every hour the Earth spins from here to there 1,038 miles. But did you know that they also say the Earth, simultaneous to the alleged rotation, is also orbiting the Sun at almost 70,000 miles an hour? So the Earth is doing two things simultaneous at the same time. It's rotating 1,038 miles an hour, which they say can be tracked from the equator, and it decreases as you near the poles, up and under. 1,038 miles an hour, which is faster than a mediocre bullet. And the Earth is orbiting the Sun. Let's say that World War II samurai sword would be the Sun. So you have the Earth spinning under Polaris, which never moves, it's stationary, rotating 1,000 miles an hour, and going this way, orbiting the Sun at 70,000 miles per hour. So every hour the Earth moves over 1,000 miles, rotating, and it moves 70,000 miles through what they call an infinite and expanding vacuum of space, universe. Okay, so if that were true, there's no way that time-lapse star trails centered on Polaris would be perfect circular, or a perfect circle of all these stars. They would run into each other if the Earth was also traveling 70 times faster than its rotation around the Sun. At 6 o'clock, they set up the cameras. The Earth is here, right? And an hour goes by, they say the Earth rotated 1,000 miles. And it traveled 70,000 miles in the vacuum of space, and it is not in its original point when they set up the cameras at 6. Okay, so let's say it takes 5 hours to complete these time-lapse star trails, 70,000 times 5. Do you understand how many miles that is? That's almost 500,000 miles the Earth traveled in the vacuum of their space. And when you look at these star trails, there's no deviation. One star would appear to run into the next star, and that star would run into the next star. But we don't see that. And they're mum when it comes to the 70,000 mile an hour orbital speed of the Earth around the Sun. They just have you believe, oh, the Earth's rotating 1,038 miles an hour. We aim cameras at Polaris, take pictures every so often, and do a time-lapse star trail footage, which results in perfect circles with Polaris in the center and the stars all doing a circle around it. If the Earth were moving 70,000 miles every hour simultaneous to the alleged rotation, this orbital speed is 70 times greater than the alleged rotation of the Earth. 70,000 miles every hour around the Sun, and 1,038 miles every hour rotating on its fake tilted axis. That's illogical. That would show up. How do time-lapse star trails only record the lesser motion, the lesser speed, but totally ignore the greater, 70 times greater orbital speed of the sun, of the moon around the, or the earth around the sun. That's illogical. There's no way that time-lapse star trails could be perfect circular in manner. Now what they'll do is they'll run to Wikipedia or Google and plagiarize it. And Google or Wikipedia will say, well, because the space is so vast that 70,000 miles wouldn't show up. It would be like a grain of sand in distance, and it doesn't show up. That's what they have to say. They have to explain it away, of course. But if you're in America looking up at Polaris and you travel 70 miles away going south, Polaris will drop. And that's only 70 miles traveling south. Away from Polaris, Polaris will lose altitude. So you're telling me the Earth travels almost 500,000 miles in its alleged orbit of the sun, and none of that shows up in the time-lapse star trails. Only the lesser speed rotation, 1,038 miles an hour, is showing up? No, no, no. The only way you can believe that is to adhere to being systematically dumbed down, to instantaneously believe, memorize, and regurgitate everything they tell us with no application or review of logic. If the Earth were rotating faster than a bullet at the equator, 1,038 miles an hour, and speeding through the vacuum of space at 70,000 miles an hour around the sun, time-lapse star trails centered on Polaris would be anything but perfect circular. They would deviate. The stars would appear to run in to the next star and the next star and the next star. So there you go. And to further prove that you are indoctrinated, Google, what don't we know about gravity? And Google will tell you, number one answer. However, if we are to be honest, we don't know what gravity is itself in any fundamental way. But they'll tell you every second of the day, gravity is pulling, holding, or curving all matter back towards the center of the Earth on the outside surface of a giant spinning space ball. How is that possible that gravity itself has never been directly detected per current, field, wave, beam, ray, or particle? It exhibits no known means of propagation. Gravity, if real to do all the things they say it does, would have to exhibit and possess presence and substance of itself to interact, engage, or engulf this motorcycle to pull, hold, or curve it down. Why is it that we have harnessed both electricity and magnetism? They have presence and substance of current and field. We have harnessed them to serve us. Gravity itself hasn't one iota of presence or substance of itself to directly detect, identify, isolate, or harness on the Earth. So for you to continue to believe in gravity means that you have to exhibit faith. And that, unbeknownst to you, gravity is your God, Newton its prophet, and NASA its disciples. You don't have to remain systematically dumbed down to instantaneously believe, memorize, and regurgitate the liars of scientism, Wikipedia, Google, Scientific American, Popular Mechanics. Do you realize you are instantaneously believing everything they say? You put no review of logic. You just believe it. And the only thing you put into it is to try to memorize it. And that's it. That's the situation we're in, or you are.